from the Post-Millennial. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear wishes rape upon J.D. Vance's family. It's not an exaggeration. And apparently when he was asked to clarify, he doubled down. Quote, after speaking on the DNC main stage last night, Harris campaign surrogate Governor Andy Beshear went on national television this morning and explicitly called for a member of Senator Vance's family to be raped, the Trump-Vance campaign said. We'll play it. The quote is, make him go through this. That's what Beshear said.
About what some people have had to go through because of these laws. J.D. Vance calls pregnancy resulting from rape inconvenient. Like, inconvenience is traffic. Make him go through this. Think about.
When asked about it again, he apparently said something to the effect of, oh, it's a deflection or whatever. J.D. Vance responds, what the hell is this? Why is Andy Beshear wishing that a member of my family would get raped? Yeah. That's kind of wild. Make his family go through a rape pregnancy. Dude.
You know, it's something I don't do is wish that people have to suffer trauma to realize what's really valuable in life. Like the horror of war, so you can realize how important and how great it is to have quiet and peace and health. I just won't let myself go to that point where I actually wish them to have to feel the suffering.
You know, I can assure you this. If a member of J.D. Vance's family was raped, they would not abort the kid. We have had very many pro-life people through these doors and sitting in these chairs who would outright say, absolutely not, no abortion, no exceptions. The idea that Andy Beshear thinks that J.D. Vance's family member getting raped and would result in them considering aborting their child means he fundamentally does not understand. So it's just shocking that he would say something like this.
It's that expression, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, right? This apparently does not apply here. And I think that almost talks, I mentioned this the other day, but I think in some ways the abortion issue is a larger-than-life caricature issue for Democrats right now. The fact that you could say, like, well, make him go through this and not realize the consequences of what you're saying, as if implying, like, this is just a trial someone should go through, is very strange. And Andy Beshear was on the shortlist for a potential VP candidate for Harris, and I find it fascinating that he is this Democratic governor from what is effectively a red state, Kentucky, and he is so flippant about this issue. It's just something that I feel like he is putting his own career on the line, and I assume he thinks it's worth it, that the Wallace-Harris campaign will provide him a future, so he should just say whatever he can, or else he didn't think it through, which is pretty thoughtless.
I think he thought it through. I think what he said actually sounds fairly common in Democrat circles. When he was like, make him go through this, it sounds very typical of how Democrats perceive these issues. They genuinely think that if someone raped a member of Vance's family, they'd immediately go, well, I guess it's abortion. They say these things. They say the left believes that these pro-life individuals, first of all, they run the lie where they show up to these pro-life events and they go, how many kids have you adopted? And there's a bunch of people being like, none. And they're like, aha, that proves it. And then they ignore, like, I don't know, Amy Coney Barrett's family. And I think she's adopted like 2. Mm-hmm. And many pro-lifers are substantially more likely to adopt. It's much more common. They act like they're the ones adopting. They live in this world where they genuinely believe everyone thinks exactly like they do. And the only reason they're pro-life is because they're lying. That's it. They're lying and they hate women. But if they ever had a situation, then they would not be pro-life anymore. Wrong. Absolutely not. I guarantee you J.D. Vance's family would be like, well, we'll care for the child.
What do you think? What do you think Andy Beshear was thinking?
I think that they have to bring everything back to abortion. I think because they have no actual policies to run on, as we pointed out before. This abortion, J6, that's it. And
that's the policy.
No, seriously though, I think that they know that if to win this election, they're going to have to inflame the sensibilities of a lot of women and convince a lot of women that their rights are going to be in danger if they would consider voting for Donald Trump or J.D. Vance. And I think any opportunity to remind women what's at stake, and to make it seem, by the way, as if it's like a common occurrence, these rape pregnancies, which are extraordinarily rare. I think that's why he did it.
Yeah, I think it is interesting that this is the issue Harris in particular thinks she's going to win on. I mean, she was touring the country on her, pro-abortion tour beforehand. The first time she met Walz was at a Planned Parenthood, which she toured as, it was unprecedented having a vice president tour an abortion clinic. But I have to wonder if the issue is, I saw some poll that said, it's not considered a major issue by most Americans. So they can bring up abortion constantly, right? They can do it in these kind of graphic ways, and they can have their, abortion and vasectomy bus outside the DNC. But at the end of the day, even women who think it is a major issue for them are still impacted by the economy. They're still impacted by crime. I don't know that you can use abortion enough to distract from the realities that you have a weak campaign on those issues.
How many abortions are they getting? Like it's kind of
really.
crazy. I'm like, is it really that common? I mean that seriously.
Yeah.
Do they have abortions that often?
That this could be, to your point, the most important thing in your life when you can't afford gas and groceries and whatever, but you're like, yeah, but I need to be able to abort whenever I want to.
I listened to this interview a couple months ago with women who were, they were in Texas, and they had various, Texas has a restriction on abortion, and they wwere saying, and I had to undergo this, or I wanted to leave the state. And there's one woman who was like, and I couldn't afford to leave the state to undergo an abortion. And I like wanted to pull my hair out. It's like, first off, the fact that like your only default option is abortion is sad. But on top of that, like you're listing an economic complaint here that you don't have the money to travel. Why don't you have any money? Because of the Biden economy.
Right.
Not that I want you to go out of state to get an abortion. That's almost separate to me. But, even these women who are presenting these arguments as to why these are bad issues touch on the economy as it's too expensive to have a kid right now. Oh, so you wouldn't abort your kid if it was it was more affordable. You could have children. The economy wasn't so bad. Like they all can't pass. They all have to pass by this issue to make any sort of complaint. And I find that to be amazing that the DNC would prioritize this issue over everything else. It's just illogical.
But it's also kind of a hoax at the end of the day, because number one, that's not what the Supreme Court decision on Roe even meant. Mm-hmm. You can still get an abortion. That's not a thing. And number two, the majority of Republicans, I think, support exceptions. There's not really that many Republicans who want an outright ban for abortion in this country. I don't know. Maybe you guys disagree.
There are a lot.
I think it's a hoax. I think it's a hoax issue.
There are a lot. I don't know.
You think it's the majority?
I don't know. I think it's like
7%, but
no, it's way more than 7.
But there's you get some loud people that are like, no, it should be completely banned, and then 28,000 people like the clip, and then it's that's going to make a lot of waves.
I'm pretty sure if you asked most pro-lifers, I'm pretty sure 100% of pro-lifers would say in an ideal society there's no abortion at all. Now, as to whether politically they want to ban it, many would be like, well, we'll leave it up to the states. And so that's probably the distinction. There won't be a federal abortion ban. Seamus Coughlin, for instance, and who runs, is it Live Action?
Live Action?
Live Action?
Yeah, the pro-life organization.
Oh. I don't know who runs it.
Check it out.
But I think their stance is pretty much like no abortions, period.
Seamus is hardcore.
Well,
he's like one of the only people I know that talks like that.
And the thing is, like, you're asking, do the majority of Republicans support? I think I would say the majority of Republicans probably support some sort of restriction. I don't think they all support a 6-week ban, which tends to be the earliest, the heartbeat bans or stuff like that. But even in states where there are really intense restrictions, 6-week or whatever else, they still have exceptions for typically rape, incest, and life of the mother.
Yeah.
And so there is a level of flexibility that there's being presented even in these more intensive restrictive states. And so I think that just tells you that this is not an issue that Republicans are totally 100% dead step, agreed upon. And probably that's good, right? This is a complex issue that there should be a lot of nuance and debate too, unlike the Democratic Party, which is fear-mongering. I mean, Kamala always refers to any ban that's gotten passed as a Trump abortion ban, even though Roe v. Wade was overturned under Biden and Trump has said he wants it to be governed by the state, and also he's not campaigning. He is not an elected official from a lot of these states that have these bans that she's so critical of.
And he said he doesn't support a national ban.
No, he says it.
And he supports exceptions.
It's Lila Rose is Live Action. You mentioned earlier, and she I know she's full on no abortions ever anywhere. Sorry, interject that.
And I mean, even people commenting right now saying there should never be an exception for rape is no excuse for aborting a baby.
Mm-hmm.
I find it so authoritarian, and not that all authoritarianism is bad, but like commanding what other people can and can't do with their bodies. And of course, it's the body of the child. And you want to protect the life of the innocent. I get it, but it's also the woman's body. She's over there. She's not you. Like, focus on your own life.
I would
don't wanna turn this
probably
into a debate.
I'd probably categorize myself more as post-liberal these days, especially listening to the likes of Carl Benjamin and such, and the Lotus Eaters are very smart. And I think I've come to realize over the past several years, post-liberalism is not conservatism. Conservatism has traditional values associated with it. Post-liberalism is more so, at least the things I think are interesting, is recognizing that what you just said, Ian, is just the destruction. It's capitulation, giving up and letting evil succeed. A moral functioning society has to have boundaries by which people agree to operate within. And so telling someone that we're not going to let you cut your hands off, there's a reason for that. It's bad for you and you're wrong. Extends to a bunch of other areas as well. However, the reality is it's all about moral worldview. And there are people, I think, when I was a lot younger, I genuinely believed principles dictated things. And so long as we understood the logic behind it, we'd accept it. But then you understand that it's actually morals, which are structured in what you think will lead to the correct outcome and what will make lives better. And that's different for a lot of people. But if there's a collective group of people that are willing to adhere to a certain set of standards to avoid a certain detriment, then it has to be enforced. That is, if people all today decided, I want to cut my hand off because I have body dysmorphia, we say no. We are going to do what we can to prevent you from doing that. That's bad for you. And then there are libertarians saying, if somebody wants to do it, why not?
I think because more people doesn't equal better. You want more quality people. If you get more psychopaths, it's actually worse. So... but also, I'm riding off the coattails of 30 years of thinking abortion was fine. Like, not fine. I hate it, but it's accepted in my circle.
Everything is a slippery slope always. So when you move in any direction, culturally and politically, you open the door to, you push the boundaries of what would be considered extreme. So there was a period in this country where gay marriage was considered extreme. You go back 50 years or whatever, it was unheard of. Then it got to the point in this country where it became more socially acceptable for a variety of reasons. Proximity, people knew people who were LGBT or whatever and said, they're fine, whatever. They don't cause me any problems. And then it came to gay marriage. The argument from conservatives in 2008 with was it Prop 8 or whatever in California on gay marriage was they're going to start teaching kids this stuff in school. And the Democrats said that's absurd, that'll never happen. But it's logically consistent. The argument then became, after 2014 was Obergefell?
15.
15? Now, the argument from Democrats was, well, if there's a gay teacher with a picture of his husband on his desk, you have to explain to the kid what that is, right? So now it has to be included in curriculum. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that when the conservatives were like, if you allow gay marriage normalized in society, they will teach this in schools. And the Democrats said, oh, you're crazy. We're just saying let people live their lives. But the logic was there. Everything pushes the boundaries. And so now we're at the point where we had a video yesterday where a guy who's HIV positive said he shouldn't have to tell anybody that he had HIV, and that when he got hooked up with a guy and then told him after, the guy looked at him like he had been murdered. But Democrats actually are pushing laws that decriminalize knowingly engaging in behaviors which could spread HIV without informing the other person.
I think that's bioterrorism, personally.
Well, this is where we're getting, and the argument is you're oppressing people. Whenever you allow something, what becomes extreme moves further and further away. This is not a statement of what is right or wrong. It's a statement of fact. That if you say no rock music, not allowed, we will not have any rock music anywhere in America. And then someone says, what about guitars? Guitars can be used for other kinds of music. Then you say, okay, fine, I guess guitars are fine. Now someone's playing guitar and they start playing something that's kind of like rock and people start coming to like it. And then someone says, can we have drums too? And they're like, well, we already have the guitars. Then you explain to people, start teaching about rock music and what guitars are used for. Then it becomes common. Then someone says, I want to play the drums. It's not that it's right or wrong to play drums. I'm using it as an example of if you open the door to one thing, what becomes more acceptable expands and moves around it.
Thanks for watching this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to check out the live show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. on this channel. Subscribe and we'll see you all there.